Hello, and welcome to another episode of For the Love of Sports. My name is Michael Rasile. This is the show where we get to talk about sports, we get to talk about business, and we get to talk about everything in between. Wherever you're listening, however you're listening, you know exactly what to do. 5-star review on Spotify, like and subscribe over on YouTube, and on Apple Podcasts, 5-star review, and say something really nice about me and my incredible guest. Today I have Joe Castignani. He's the founder of Mummy, MVMI, anyone on the internet. Yeah, I'm Italian, Joe. I could say your last name right there. It's not that big a deal, right?
Absolutely. Fellow Paisan.
Hey, my man, where's the gabagool? I'm trying to get my grandma to make some gabagool with me this weekend. We'll see if it goes well. Joe, pleasure to have you on, man. Excited to talk about the company, what you're doing. I guess, you know what? Let's go with it. The first question I have for everybody on the For the Love of Sports podcast, Joe, is why do you love sports so much?
That's a good question, man. I wasn't expecting that question.
You haven't listened to any episodes then?
Oh. Yeah.
All good.
I've been playing sports ever since I was a little kid, man. From baseball, basketball. Wasn't very good at basketball. Football, rugby, volleyball. I played them all. And I don't know. There's something about the competitive edge. It's like intoxicating.
Have you always been drawn to, I guess, that in more than just sports? Has competition just come out in many different areas of your life?
Yeah, for sure, man. Playing video games with friends, playing games in the streets, all that kind of stuff. I'm sure you're probably the same way.
I hate losing so much. I love competition, but I hate losing so much. When I was a kid, and like up until maybe not very recently, but up until recently, I was one of those losers that I would quit before I lost. That way I could say I didn't lose, you know? I was that guy.
Is that a sore loser? Is that what?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. 100%. Yeah. But I've come to terms with it. I am aware. I'm self-aware. I like to believe, and I'm getting better. And now I'm comfortable losing because you lose, you're only that much closer to the next win. But very excited for it, man. And yeah, again, I think it's competition. Obviously, we get that answer a lot here on the show. It makes sense, right? Sports. There's something about it. There's not too many.
Yeah.
Oh, I take that back. There are a lot of areas in life that you can compete. But sports, there's something so primal about it, right? Bigger, stronger, faster. It's just these things that's just what we got, right? Some of us are just a little bit better than others.
You know what I like? An interesting thought is most, you know, regular sports, football, those kinds of sports, there's no finite ability of skill that you can have. You can't like be the best. There's no ceiling in these sports. Like darts, for example. I always use this. You could hit the bullseye every single time, and that's as good as you can get. Or bowling, you could get a strike every single time. Not to rip on those sports, but like, you know, football, I played football in college, so that's the one I'll use for example. But, you know, there's so many plays throughout the game. There's so many opportunities to win and lose throughout the game that, I don't know, that's what's kind of intoxicating, is that like never-ending chase at perfection, I guess.
And you'll never get there. But that's kind of a good thing.
Yeah.
That's kind of a good thing, man. Like, it would be boring
if we
got
insanity.
Perfect. Yes, yeah, absolutely, 100%.
Pushing the rock up the hill, having it roll right back down.
Every single day. That's what you got to do. And you played football where again, if I'm not mistaken?
Cal, UC
Berkeley. Okay, I did think so. Yeah. That's pretty cool. So you're smart and athletic. I mean, jackpot. You're also pretty. You're a handsome man, if I do say so. I mean, you hit the jackpot, man. Good for you. Not bad.
Thanks, man. I don't know. I appreciate that, but smart might not be a good way to describe me.
I appreciate you being humble, but you don't get into Berkeley by mistake. I'll just say that. So with that, I guess, you know, as you said, the competition was always something that you liked. So you played football, Division I. Let's not mess around. That's very impressive. Kudos and congratulations.
Thank you.
Was there any thought of going pro? Was there any opportunity? Was there anything that was kind of getting you to want, you know, maybe, you know, went to the combine, did some of that stuff? Now we're in draft season now. I can ask those questions.
Yeah, man. So honestly, that was my goal ever since I was a little kid. Actually, I decided that I wanted to play professional football after my freshman season in high school. I played 2 seasons in Pop Warner. Our second year, I actually played quarterback back in the day. I took my team to the national championship in Florida, which is, you know, a hilarious thing to have on the resume. But I wasn't super in love with it until I got to Bellarmine, my high school. And after that season, really wanted to play pros, wanted to get into a good school, play, you know, Division I. And then I would say I redshirted my freshman season at Cal, was doing well, you know, making progress, you know, getting looks by the coaches. My sophomore season, my redshirt freshman season, I started on 3 different special teams, played in 4 different games, got a taste of what it's like to play, traveled with the team, did all that kind of cool stuff. And honestly, I suffered a pretty bad concussion my freshman season, and that really changed the outlook for me with football. And it was coincidental because right as I got that concussion, I don't know if you remember, but that CNN 111 brain article came out where they analyzed 111 brains and 110 of them had the tau protein for CTE. Don't quote me on all those numbers. Maybe it was 105 or whatever. But that study came out and it was big news in the football world and it kind of freaked me out. And so from then on, I was like, all right, man, do I really want to do this? Is this something that I want to risk potentially the end of my life or the rest of my life, dealing with? And then, so anyways, that sophomore season came around, started playing, got a taste of what it's like to play college football. And then I injured my back really bad. We were in the weight room. I was doing power cleans, caught a power clean down in the squat, was coming up and just popped out my back. And that was kind of the end of it, man. I was like, okay, I want to be able to pick my kids up. I want to be able to throw a football when I'm older. I want to be able to be dad and do all that kind of stuff. So the long way of answering your question was yes, dude, that was the dream for me until those 2 kind of injuries happened. And after that, it was all right, I don't know if this is for me anymore.
Well, at least you were able to come to those terms, right? Most people, it was injuries that led you there, but I've had many athletes on this show, and most people are told when their career is over. They don't get the opportunity to say, I'm finished with my career. So you can take solace in that, I guess.
Yeah, it was weird though. Not to get, I'm an open guy, but I was in a funk for a while, and that's kind of part of the story behind the mission of the company that we'll go into later. But part of this little depression I was in was this lack of identity, because I no longer loved football. Football was no longer who Joe was. Joe was no longer the linebacker, and so I didn't know. It's really hard to describe, and a lot of athletes do struggle with this, so I'm sure you've heard this before. But it's like this, your self-worth is derived from what you do and what you produce instead of being internal. And I don't know if that makes any sense.
It absolutely makes sense. I've had people on here that run companies to help athletes exactly with that specific problem. So no, I've heard that many times, spoken with many athletes about that one.
Interesting.
And it's important for people to understand, right? You were a football player. That's what you did. That's what you ate. That's what you slept. That's what you breathed. And then all of a sudden you're no longer a football player. Well, what the hell are you then? Who are you? What do you do, right? And I've had athletes on here talk about the depression, getting into drinking and drugs and not really knowing what to do. And, there's a lot of stuff that goes with that. And, hopefully, any athletes out there listening, reach out to somebody. There's always someone. Taj Deshawn had him on the show a few months back. Absolutely incredible. His whole company is based around helping athletes transition from being an athlete to not being an athlete anymore, right? Whatever that is, you're not an athlete anymore. You're still athletic, but you're not the football player anymore. Now you're the, moving on. So
it's weird, man. It's an interesting thing. And I do hope that people come out because, get help, talk to people about it. It's it's a normal thing, right? You're giving up a huge part of your life. I mean, you spend, I don't know, anywhere from 60 to 80% of your waking hours doing that particular thing. And then to just stop doing that cold turkey is it would be weird for anyone doing anything.
And many athletes, you said internalize, but they keep that inside, right? Many athletes don't want to talk about that, and they think they're the only ones that go through it. I'm not speaking from experience. I'm speaking from experience and talking to other athletes, and that's always something. Every athlete goes through this. Very, very few athletes don't have some much more than others, right? But every athlete doesn't have some sort of kind of identity crisis, if I may, in understanding, who you are, what you are after, unfortunately, leaving your sport. Yeah,
man. No, it's an interesting concept, for sure.
Yeah, I'll introduce you to Tosh. He's an awesome guy.
Yeah, I would love to. Yeah, it's cool to hear, though, that you've talked to people. You talked to someone who started a company around this. That's awesome. Good for that person.
Yeah, he's awesome. So, I'll introduce you to him after the show. But one thing, so back to you a little bit and back to, I guess, the business journey some more. But I think, obviously, this all ties in pretty importantly, right? So you have this competition. You have this drive. You then decide on your own terms again. It's due to injury, sort of, but you decide, hey, you know what, this might not be for me anymore. You eventually leave Cal, you leave school, you graduate, kudos, congratulations. You then get into a job that you just don't like that much. Was there still some of that identity kind of crisis, depression, as you put it, going on in this job due to not being a football player anymore, as well as hating your job? Like, could you give me like the percentage, the pie chart of why you were feeling this way due to all these different emotions?
Yeah, why I hated my first job.
Why you hated your first job, why you were a little depressed, just the pie chart of the reasons that you might have gotten in there.
Absolutely. So I think part of it was, being, again, very vulnerable. Part of it was coming from high school where, I was one of the best defensive players in my entire area. I was well known. People knew who I was. People were watching my games and this and that. Again, on a very small level, like this is high school football, right? But as a little kid, it's like it's your whole entire world, right? You're in high school and people like know who you are and all that kind of stuff. And then you get to Cal or you get to college, a great Division I, Pac-12 school. Maybe some years were better than others, but you get there and then you're at the bottom of the totem pole. You weigh 50 pounds to 100 pounds less than the next guy. You're not as fast. You're not as good. People don't care who you are. People don't give a shit who you are. And so that was part of it, getting into Cal. The other major part was, what we talked about as I was transitioning out was like this lack of identity. Who am I? This is who I was for my entire life. Who am I now? And then, again, part of the reason why I started this company, I was at the time, so I got to Cal. My goal when I first got there was to start on the football field, get into the Haas School of Business. Both of those things I was fortunate enough to accomplish, but both of those things are full-time jobs. And so my time was spread incredibly thin. Something had to give, and it was my sleep. And I was of the mindset that sleep is for the weak, or you can sleep when you're dead. We've talked about this.
In college, yes. No. In college, 100%. Yeah, that was fine.
Yeah, exactly. My strength coaches and coaches throughout the years, and then the mentality of college, work hard, play hard type thing. But I really wasn't, I was totally neglecting my sleep. I figured that was where I could make up time doing my homework after practice and training and all that stuff. And so I was just chronically sleep deprived. And I remember being like very noticeably anxious every day, constantly anxious, having like these anxieties, social anxieties, in my head is how I like to describe it. And so that really exacerbated any problem that I was having at the time. And so, I guess moving on from college. So, let me rewind a little bit. So I had the idea to start the company. And then to be honest with you, I didn't have the balls to pursue it. And so having that regret constantly in my mind caused a little bit of that anxiety and depression. And I didn't have the self-confidence to pursue it, right? So I was listening to people around me telling me to get a real job, go do this or go do that, go work for a big company. And so that's what I did because that's what people were telling me to do. And so that's, I think, a big reason why I hated my first job.
Yeah, and I think that's right. Like the that little voice in the back of your head that's always talking to you is like, oh man, it would have been really cool, right? You probably should have done this, and and then I had the same exact thing. I didn't have an idea for a company. I just was like, why did I come work for this company? I hate this job. I'm 25. Do I have to do this? Quarter life crisis is what the people on the internet like to call it. It was 100% true. Like I absolutely hated what I was doing. Every day I woke up and just lay in bed for like 45 minutes just being like, do I have to go? Like, dude. What happens if I don't show up? Does the world stop spinning?
Not wanting to roll out of bed? Like just sit there?
Yep. Just laying there,
man.
Staring. Like not even at my phone, just staring. Just being like, this sucks. I hate it. I don't want to do this. And eventually just one day just quit literally was just like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm out. I just walked away. So it worked out for me, I guess. In your situation, like you got lucky, if I may. I don't like using that word. Fortunate in kind of how everything went down. So tell the people a little bit on how, you always had this regret. You hated your job. It didn't seem like you were going to stop anytime soon until you were given the opportunity to go and start this company. What exactly happened and how were you able to eventually start taking those first steps forward?
Yeah, man. So I think I kind of started the idea in college, started prototyping the first pillow, the first product. My ex-girlfriend at the time, her father was a venture capitalist, and I'm always the idea guy, bouncing ideas around, and this was like one idea that he was like, wow, like there's a market for this, like he was showing interest in it. And so when I saw that, I was like, shit, like this could be a real thing. That's when I got scared, and so put it on the back burner, totally forgot about it, focused on graduating with good grades and doing all that. Doing all the recruiting BS that, I'm sure you guys have done when you're a junior and a senior for internships, this and that, career fairs, all that garbage. And so anyways, I got a job. I actually liked the job at the time. It was, a great opportunity. But that regret, like you said, in the back of my mind was constantly eating away at me. And a quote, I think, I'll butcher the quote. Maybe we'll call it a paraphrase. It's, the pain of discipline now the pain of regret is far worse than the pain of discipline now could ever be. And I think living with regret, and ultimately that's what I did for the first few years after putting this idea on the back burner. That pain of regret is terrible, man. And that's why, I'd like to say to people, like, if you have these ideas, go chase them, go follow your heart, go do the things that you want to do. Because if you don't, you're going to regret it for the rest of your life. And I feel lucky because luckily I was furloughed from my first job. I was laid off during COVID. So didn't have a job anymore. And that idea in the back of my head that was eating away at me for those, let's see, 3 or 4 years, I was finally like, all right, like I've been wishing this to happen for the past year. Like now it happened. If I don't do it now, then I'm a coward. So to your point, I got lucky. The decision was made for me to quit my job. I was laid off. It wasn't my choice. And so that's honestly, man, if I didn't get laid off, I wouldn't have had the balls to quit my job and go jump into this. Like there's no shot.
It's too easy to keep making money. Like it's like a pretty easy thing to do. It's like you have a job. It's a good job, whether you like it or not. We kind of know the quote unquote what the frig is a good job kind of thing. You had it. You were making money. Everyone around you was praising you, I'm sure. Oh no, you're doing great. Oh, you got in that company, dude. Oh, you're set for life. You got nothing to worry about, right? And like,
dude.
Who cares? I don't want to be set for life. Exactly. I want to actually enjoy what I do on a daily basis. I don't want to hate everything. And again, not have that regret. Was there ever any time prior to being furloughed that you like thought like, well, I have this time, like, there's the 9 to 5 and then there's the 5 to 9, right? That's that whole side hustle, side project. People think, look at me, I'm 5 to 9 on this right now, right? Like, was that ever something that came up and you were like, maybe I'll just, start dabbling in this on the side? Or was it kind of just like, no, I'm going to go get drunk with my friends on the weekends?
I wish, man. Unfortunately, and, fortunately, my job, I was working 8 a.m. to at least 10 p.m. every single day.
Wow.
So there was literally no time to do anything. I was working 70, 80-hour weeks. It was like high-level real estate finance, always walking on eggshells, very, computer or facing computer all day long. So honestly, dude, I wasn't getting 8 hours of sleep then too. And so that's kind of like another time I became sleep deprived. Again, constantly anxious. Quick side note. I believe it was the University of Chicago. They're like School of Medicine or something. Again, don't quote me on the source. But one night of sleep deprivation and sleeping less than 7 hours compared to the baseline leads to a 45% spike in cortisol the following day. Cortisol is the human stress hormone, the fight or flight hormone. So one night of sleep deprivation, elevates your cortisol levels flowing through your veins and stuff for the whole entire next day. So anyways, there's a lot of science behind it. You should check out our website, follow our sleep blog for more. But sorry for that quick tangent.
No, that's an awesome statistic because I'm usually in bed by 10, asleep by 11, wake up at like 6:45. So I get more than the 7 hours of sleep, it sounds like. But 100% in the nights where I get shitty sleep, just a couple, like last week for some reason, just could not fall asleep up till 1, woke up at 3, in and out until 5, finally fall asleep for a couple hours. Yeah, you feel like shit the entire next day. Like it's sleep deprivation, it's frustration. Even if I'm not tired, I still just don't feel good. Like That makes sense. That that statistic is a pretty good one. Shout out University of Chicago.
There's a physiological impact. Sorry, the quotes were in the wrong place. There's a physiological impact of waking up on the wrong side of the bed. Like there's a real measurable scientific physiological impact on your hormones, your physiology, etc. So
yeah,
it's
people
real.
that don't,
It's real.
I don't know how people don't get enough sleep. I know sleep apnea. My dad has he had a really bad case of it, and he was never pleasant to be around. Then he got his sleep apnea mask, and he's much more pleasant to be around. Would you look at that? Yeah, just simply going to sleep helped. It's just one of those things that people don't believe.
It's crazy.
Sleep when I'm dead. It's a fun thing to say, right? And if I'm out on a bachelor party, I'll sleep the next day when I'm dead. That's fine. But in my normal life, no, I try and get my my good 7-8 hours of sleep in. And so I guess so you have this idea. You get furloughed from your job. How quickly were you going from feeling bad and sorry for yourself to actually just starting to get the wheels in motion? Because if someone told me, hey, go start a pillow company, it's I don't know where the hell to start. So how quickly were you able to go from feeling bad for yourself to at least moving in that direction?
Literally. So good question. Literally the next day, I started doing research. I started looking into the market, looking at what companies were doing. So I did start immediately because I felt that again, I felt like a coward I felt like a hypocrite if I didn't do it. But that being said, man, getting laid off from your first job, it was a blow. And there was another guy, he was another analyst, my level. We started around the same time. He got furloughed as well. And so we were both pretty bummed, and it was a pretty big ego blow. It's why me? Did I do something wrong? It was a tough little week, but then I kind of quickly transitioned into doing this kind of full time.
And so was it always pillows, or was it the idea of just better sleep and you landed on pillows?
That's a great question. So
thank you. You don't have to stroke my ego. I know I'm really good at this. You got nothing to worry about, man. I appreciate it.
Yeah, man. You're excellent. You got 2 microphones on, too. You got one on the headphones, one on the actual
I only think you get one of them, though. I'm pretty confident. I really hope you only get one of them, so it's fine.
So it's kind of two different stories. So the pillow came about, again, like I said, in college. It was literally one night. It was my sophomore year. We had moved out of the dorms. I was living with one of my teammates. He played tight end, H-back. And I was lying down in bed, and the filling would just, kind of shift away from the weight and pressure of my head and neck. And I'd wake up, and I'd be lying on nothing, right? 2 little sheets of fabric. And so I'd flip the pillow over. It's horizontal access, and the filling up here would go back underneath my head and neck. And it was great. It was oh, this is supportive. This is, relief. This is great. Maybe I fall back asleep 5-10 minutes, half an hour later, wake back up, same issue. The stuff would just shift away. And so that happened probably 2 or 3 times within that one night in college. And I remember I sat up out of bed and I was fuming angry. I was this is ridiculous. This pillow sucks. There's got to be a better solution to this. This isn't rocket science. I personally don't like the Tempur-Pedic foam blocks. They weigh a ton. They're bulky. They're hot. So I don't like those pillows. They are a different solution to the same problem. But I thought of a down jacket and how the seams in the down jacket keeps the filling in place. Otherwise, all the filling would shift to your waistline, and you have a little bike tire going around your waist. And so, anyways, that was kind of the inception of the idea for the product. So it was always a pillow, to answer your question. But then in terms of the brand positioning, the mission of the company, being this high performance, the Nike of bedding is what I say. So again, rewind, I'm in this chronic state of sleep deprivation. I'm depressed. I'm not having a good time. Junior year rolls around. I take this course for, to satisfy one of those elective requirements outside your major. It was a psychology class. It was called Psychology of Sleep. And it was by a guy named Dr. Matthew Walker, who's world-renowned sleep scientist. He's on Joe Rogan, has a TED Talk. He's author of this book here, Why We Sleep. You guys should check it out for sure. And so anyways, he has a sleep lab at Cal, teaches, various courses, but he teaches this, introductory course called Psychology of Sleep. in that class, we were taught about all the physiological impacts that sleep has and that deprivation has, on our cardiovascular system, our mental health, diet, like our metabolism and things like that. Sleep literally impacts everything that we do. And so that class was super eye-opening to me because it was the why behind why do we need to sleep? Why is sleep important? Why should you get your 8 hours? It was like the explanation for that. Because, ever since you were a kid, your parents have told you that, get your 8 hours, get into bed early, it's your bedtime. And you're like, I hate this. I don't want to, I just want to hang out with my friends and roughhouse, if you're anything like me. But, so yeah, that class is what opened my eyes up to the importance of sleep. And I loved it, dude. I got an A in the class. I took notes. I didn't miss a single class. I got an A on every test and essay because I just loved the class so much. And so the idea for Mummy is to align ourselves with different athletes like Bobby, Brandy, and Ronnie, who I'm sure we'll talk about later. And to align ourselves to set an example of these great, athletes telling this story that greatness, your performance, your dreams, your goals, your ambitions are built on sleep, but also to be a resource for people with our weekly newsletter, our social media, things like that, to educate people and to inspire them to care about sleep. So I feel like I've been talking for a while. Hopefully I answered your questions. I don't even remember what your questions were.
You're good. No. You're good, and I appreciate you going down that route. I also wrote the name of that book down. Very excited to check into that. So I think that'll be a lot of fun. But I think it's very interesting how little people give. We kind of spoke about it a bit before, but athletes in particular, right? We all know athletes are so much better, or perceived to be better at recovery, right? You need to understand, after your workout, that's what the ice bath is for, right? That's what the sauna is for. You do all these things to recover. You make sure, Tom Brady was, he was always in bed at 8:45 at night because he was waking up at whatever time, and he needed to make sure he got X amount of sleep because that's how much his body could recover, and that's why he played football till he was 45. Probably could have played another couple of years if he wanted. Still might. But I think it's just so interesting, specifically with athletes. We understand these high-performing athletes, they're doing this for a very specific reason. But little old me, whom I work at my corporate job, I'll just stay up till 11 or 12, eating snacks, drinking, soda until bedtime. Then I'll, fall asleep at 1, and then I'll wake up at 7, kind of roll out of bed, splash some water in my face and log onto my computer, right? It's not... I don't understand why society doesn't take sleep that importantly, because it is, we're supposed to be asleep for a third of our life. There's a very important reason for that, right? There's a very good reason to do that. And the fact that we need it to recover, your very interesting statistic from before. With all that being said, the Nike of betting, as you put it, understanding, why and how all behind it. What were those first few months like? How, you said you did a little bit of research here and there. You kind of thought of the down jacket idea back in college. How many prototypes were there? How long did it actually take to start seeing, actually being able to feel something and hold something in your hand and getting a little bit closer to actually creating that first product?
Yeah, good question. So in college, we started the first prototypes.
You were actually making prototypes in college. I just thought this was I thought of a down jacket. That would have been cool. Okay, so you were actually making the product in college and then got chicken shit and decided not to do it. I love it, dude. What a great story. What a great story.
Yeah, man. The first prototype ever. I remember I was back home. My parents were living in San Jose. I'm from San Jose, California. And, drove down to Michael's or one of those fabric shops, whatever it was, and got some of the mesh fabric, and I bought a pillow from Target. And so I tore it apart. I sewed in with my mom's, sewing machine from the 1980s. This thing was all faded yellow. It was once white, and now it was yellow. It was barely held together. I didn't know how to sew whatsoever. So I was just watching YouTube and just, doing sewing lines, just screwing the entire thing up. And I got so frustrated. I got to the point where on the other side, I was almost done, and I couldn't get the fabric with the top sheet underneath the sewing prong thing. I have no idea anything about sewing. And so I started stapling it. And so I was like, you know what? First prototype, they'll get the picture. This is the prototype. Slept on it. It sucked. It was terrible for sure. But it did the job. It solved the issue that I wanted it to. So I was like, all right, if we get, better materials, better fabrics, this theoretically could work. And so then I worked with like a local seamstress, and I was like, hey, this is what I made. And he looked at me and he's like, what the hell is this? Like, get this out of my shop. And I was like, you know what, just make this into something that is presentable. And so he went back, ordered some materials, did his thing, and came back with 2 prototypes, both of which I have. They're at my parents' house. So those prototypes are real. And then we're like, all right, like, let's find a factory. Let's start, doing production sampling. And that's when I hit the wall. That's when I went chicken shit and, quit, put it on the back burner, couldn't do it. So then fast forward to getting furloughed. It took me, I would say my process was, putting together like a high-level pitch deck, doing my research, like making sure it's a viable opportunity. And then I started looking for factories. And dude, that prototyping process with like, a real factory, that took probably about a year. And we went through like 3 or 4 prototypes with the factory back and forth. And that was a challenging period as well because, I'm telling people that this is what I'm doing. I'm starting a company, and it's like I'm still so far out from having a product that is marketable. So that was a lot of like hurry up and wait, right? It was like, okay, the sample's in my possession. I need to analyze it, give a bunch of feedback, do this, send it off. Okay, now I wait for 2 or 3 months for the second, sample to come. And in between time, I'm filling my time with, working on the pitch deck, finding some designers for branding projects, the website. But that was an interesting, like 19 months of not a whole lot of progress, or there was a lot of progress, but it wasn't happening as quickly as I wanted it to.
Yeah, it was also a weird period in human history, if I'm not mistaken, right? You just got furloughed because of, this worldwide pandemic, let's call it. And, obviously, so a lot of other things were going on. I'm sure that didn't really help the process at all, but I'm sure you had a lot of time, right? You had a lot of opportunity to do the research, to do the branding and everything behind it. And so you finally get that prototype back that you guys are comfortable with, that you say you're proud of. What's next? Do you just like, who do you go to and just say, buy my pillow? Like, how exactly does that, I don't know how this process works. So like, explain it to me like I'm 5. Like, you get this back. Okay, cool. This is great. Now what? How do you get people to start buying this thing?
Yeah, man. So that was like marketing, at least digital marketing. Like, I like to think that I have good ideas and strategies to, captivate people's attention and whatnot. But that was like my biggest question mark. It was like, I have no idea about the technical side of digital marketing, the back end of websites, all this stuff. So this world was totally foreign to me. So that was for sure probably like one of the hardest things. And so I ended up, working with a few different groups, putting together, different creatives and stuff like that and testing them on Facebook and Instagram. We also did a little bit of Google ads, but our first, we were burning cash for the first 6 months, man. Like, we were burning cash because I just didn't know how to do it. I wasn't doing it right, clearly. So
where'd you get that cash from?
That's kind of.
Where'd you get that cash from?
That's a good question. So, yeah, so my parents seeded me. My parents and brothers seeded me with a little bit of capital to kind of get things off the ground, get the prototyping done. So, definitely very grateful for them to be supporting me through that. But the big chunk, the big first investor came, funnily enough.
Yep,
I always
that's
use
a phrase.
That word, and I know
it's a phrase.
I know it's not a word. Is it a word?
You're good. Yep, 100%.
All right, let's go with it. Funnily, Funily. Okay.
2 N's. 2 N's.
But so, anyways.
Anyway, yeah. Enough about funnily. Keep going. Sorry.
2 N's. All right, man. I'm gonna write that one down real quick. Here you go. So, I didn't have a job. One of my mentors at the time, and this will stick with me forever, and this is something I'd like to share with you guys too, but he said that, on the entrepreneurial road, like, if you always do something, as a part-time job, if you're always doing, your big dream on the side, it's never going to turn into a company. Like, you can't create your full-time job by doing it part-time. Obviously, I think it's a great place to start. I think it's amazing. Keep your job, keep a salary coming in, and start working on stuff on the side. But when you're ready to pull trigger, you have to give it your full attention. But so anyways, didn't have a job, was working on this full time, had to make some money to pay the bills. And so I started tutoring. I figured, it's decent money if you can tutor the topics that, the kids need. So it's decent money, extremely flexible. You also have your computer with you at all times. So when they're, doing assignments, you could at least be checking emails and stuff. And so I started tutoring. I tutored these 2 kids in San Francisco, great kids. And I didn't know going into it, but their mom was a senior executive at Shopify. Shopify, for those who don't know, is the biggest e-commerce platform for brands. We're currently hosted on Shopify. But so anyways, I tutored her kids for about, probably 6 months, a couple of semesters. And, she knew I was working on this on the side while, their kids were doing tests and videos and writing papers and whatever. And so towards the end of that last semester, before the kids, because they were at home, that's why I was tutoring them. They were, working from home on their iPads. They needed people to be supervising them. And so anyways, towards the end of that, as the school started opening back up, as kids started going back to school and they didn't need me anymore, I kind of planted the seed, and I was like, hey, I'd love to set up a pitch with you at some time if you want to hear it out. And she was all for it. And so she was like, you know what, come over. This is your last time. After, we'll hang out. She has this really cool view on her deck. We'll hang out upstairs. We'll have, a glass of tequila, celebrate, and you can run me through the pitch deck. She loves tequila. And so,
I hope you brought the bottle of tequila, right?
You know what, man? You're really exposing me right now,
buddy. Anyway, I'm sorry. I didn't mean that. I'll cut that part. Keep going. I apologize.
Yeah. Let's edit that out. And so anyways, ran her through the pitch deck, and she was kind of sold right there. And she was like, all right, how much you want? And I was like, the minimum we're asking, the minimum check size is $100,000. And so she's like, all right. And she actually brought on another investor to go in with her on it. That investor she was a former executive at Anheuser-Busch. She was the global head of marketing for the Corona and Budweiser brands. So if you're anything like me, you know those brands very well. But so having them as the tag team of our first investors was very strategic, very validating, obviously flushed us with cash to do a bunch of kind of initial groundwork and stuff. So again, to get philosophical on you here again, it's you used the word lucky before, and it's, a real man, that's the saying, a real man or woman, a real person makes their own luck. And it's true, because the harder you work, the luckier you get. That's not my quote, that's someone else's quote. But it's constantly getting up every day, putting one foot in front of the other, doing everything to the best of your ability, and eventually you get these small wins and they compound. And so that was one of my first big wins, where I got some very reputable investors, some very strategic, people on my cap table, in my pitch deck, backing me, that I could then, leverage with other people and have more kind of, I guess, validation. It's not just this kid who's creating a pillow. What the hell is this? It's he is legit investors. There must be something to this. Let me ask a couple more questions.
Yep. Be bigger than you are, right? That's always an easy one. Oh, look at these people they think this is a good idea. I mean, look how smart they are. Look what they've done with their life. Of course you're going to think it's a great idea, right? And I totally agree with you. That's why I don't like using the word lucky, because you're not going to get lucky being high on your mom's couch, right? That's always a funny way to say it. But yeah, you're going to be lucky if you're out there doing stuff. You're going to get more opportunities to be lucky, which means it's not luck. It's actually just hard work, really, what it comes down to. So yeah, clearly, you guys were able to do that. You were able to do that in a pretty interesting way. So you get some money that way. So let's Quentin Tarantino this shit list. So now we're going to go back to 6 months out. You're burning these wonderful women, give you all this money, and now you're just lighting it on fire. You're not telling them that, of course, and we're not going to tell them that either. But you're lighting this money on fire. At what point did you say, hey, maybe this isn't the best marketing strategy? Maybe there's other ways to get this product in front of people.
Yeah, that's a good question. I think one of the big things, and I mean, looking back, 2020 hindsight, I think is the thing. Looking back, like our price point was too high to start out. So that was like a big thing that was causing big issues with website conversion rate. We started out at 108 a pillow, and now we're down to, we dropped to 99 and now we're at 79. You know, our product is far more expensive to manufacture than, you know, almost any other pillow on the market, but it's a good product. But we wanted to maintain kind of this, you know, exclusive, higher price point, you know, quality feel. But, you know, being a young entrepreneur, I had no idea about pricing. I didn't know how it worked. I didn't know what margins you're supposed to maintain.
So this was literally darts at a dartboard?
Totally.
I love it. I love that. That's awesome, man.
Darts at a dartboard and not picking the darts back off the dartboard to try again nearly fast enough. I should have done it within a couple of weeks, and it took me 6 months.
Better late than dead, right?
Exactly. So that was one big thing. One of the groups we were using, it just, you know, our styles and visions didn't align well. So, you know, we mixed things up. And, you know, I think we've talked about this, but one of our biggest breaks in terms of the marketing side of things was the whole Dave Portnoy thing, which, again, is lucky for sure.
Well, not really. He had a call out asking for a pillow, and you sent him a pillow. How's that lucky, man? I don't know. That it sounds like you made a really, really strategically smart move, in my opinion.
Yeah. No, I mean, that's how I look at it, but it's like, you know, we were fortunate that he made that emergency press conference while we were in market. You know, it could have been before we were in market. He could have never done it. You know, his audience is so awesome. And I think you work for Barstool, right?
Penn Interactive. Penn Entertainment. I work for Penn Entertainment, which is the company that just bought Barstool. So we're like brothers at this point, I guess, is a good way to say it.
Nice, man. Awesome company to work for.
I'm very grateful. Thank you. So you have that. What was there? I assume there was some legitimate uplift. There was some legitimate like eyeballs, website clicks. Like you saw like a very substantial number from something like that.
Yeah. So quickly to rewind, just so whoever's, you know, watching gets it. So Dave put out this emergency press conference like he does. I actually just saw yesterday, if you look it up, he said probably the most important emergency press conference he's ever done, which is hilarious. And so he basically went on this rant about how he hates his pillows. He has a bunch of pillows, doesn't like any of them. And so we're like, all right, well, we have a pillow. Like, let's get him a pillow and see if he likes it. And so one of my good buddies, he's out in D.C., you know, he's a big, you know, Barstool fan as well. He calls me up and he's like, Joe, you know, you gotta send Dave a pillow. And I'm like, what are you talking about? He's like, check out this video, sends me the video. And I'm like, all right, you're right. Like, let's figure it out. Like, this is, you know, I had all the butterflies. It was like so exciting. And so anyways, we're trying to find these addresses for Dave. Two of them were, you know, addresses that we just found on Google that like came up as seeming somewhat valid. And the third one, I'm not going to take credit for my buddy Sully's work, but Sully, my buddy, found this video of Dave like opening a package, paused the video like mid-video, and you were able to get out the address that was written on the package, which is wild. It's like some Jason Bourne shit right there.
That's awesome.
And so anyways, he takes this screenshot, sends it to me, and that was the address that the pillow, that's where he was. That's the address where he did the video and everything. So anyways, we were the second pillow to arrive to him. I'm an idiot, and our fulfillment partner, I told them, you know, put a 2-day rush on it. I should have done overnight. I'm an idiot. I don't know what I was thinking. But we were the second pillow to arrive to him. Had I done overnight, we probably would have been the first pillow to arrive. So anyways, take a lesson from that, and you know, if you have an opportunity, seize it 100%. But so anyways, we were the second one to be reviewed. You know, I remember I was in the car driving down to Scheels. Scheels is like a Bass Pro Shop or a, you know, one of those type, you know, sporting goods stores. And so I was driving down, getting on the freeway, and you know, I was on edge for those, you know, 2 or 3 days. You know, I was waiting for the review to come. I knew it was coming. And I get a call from Sully, and I'm like, my heart dropped. I'm like, I know what this call is. So I answer the phone. I talk to him. He's like screaming. He's like, bro, you got to watch this video, pull over right now. And so he sends me the video and I watch it. And all of a sudden, we're still a small company, but we were even smaller at the time. So I have notifications on every time a sale comes in because they don't come in all that often. And dude, my thing is going off the charts, just ring,
Wow.
The noise for Shopify is like, it's this cash register thing, like a cash register ding. So that was just going off nonstop. All of my notification list is just getting bigger and bigger. And it was wild, man. It was like one of the most exciting moments, that I've had of this process so far. To answer your question.
Keep going.
I was just going to say it had big lift, man. It was by far the most sales, we had done in that short time of a period. We probably did more sales than we did, for the 3 or 4 months preceding that in like 24 hours.
And how are you able to keep that sustained? Or obviously it's not going to sustain, forever, right? But like, how are you able to kind of just try and just keep pulling that along as long as you possibly could just to get more and more eyeballs and get more and more of those cash register dings?
So the answer is we didn't. It definitely tailed off. It tapered off. And that high to that low was pretty miserable for like a week. I remember it was pretty depressing because I was like, is this it? Like, are we going to take off now? No, but that's one of those little like tidbits along the way that like keeps you going. It's like, hey, here's a little taste of what it's like, whether you believe in God, whether you believe in fate, whatever it is for you individually, somebody is giving you those little tidbits along the way. So keep going, keep grinding. But anyways, no, we didn't, man. And sales tapered back off. But what it did do was we had more brand recognition, right? Like more people knew who we are. And that's huge for marketing. Is that like they call it the funnel, right? The top of funnel marketing, brand awareness, people, seeing the logo, right? Hearing the name Mummy, just that is super important so that later down the road when they need a pillow, it's like, oh, what was that MVMI company that Dave Portnoy reviewed? So it definitely didn't last, but it changed our trajectory for sure.
I love that, man. Shout out Dave. He did that. He did a lot of
Dave,
unboxing during. I'm not going to be able to tell him. Sorry, I don't have his personal email yet. But when I do, I'll let him know that we did this. But no, I think it's awesome. And just like he did all those unboxings during COVID, so I think it's great that you guys were able to take advantage of that in some way, shape, or form. Get your brand out there. I think he gave you guys a 9.1 after like the first just laying down on it. So that's a pretty great score. If anyone knows his pizza reviews, he doesn't throw out 9s just to anybody.
Yeah.
So clearly you're doing something right, man. And so I guess what. We've talked a lot about your past and what has happened and where we did go. Like, where are you now and where are you going, I guess? I think that's a really important, like, you want to be the Nike of betting. What the hell does that mean? Okay, so you're going to do shoes too?
Yeah.
Like, or slides? Because I wear my slides before I get into bed, right? Like, what does that mean and where are you guys now? Where are you going?
Uh-oh. I think I lost you there towards the end. You said, I'm not going to wear my slides.
I'm not going to wear my slides. I'm going to wear my slides before bed. Yeah, I got you. You're good. I'm going to wear my slides before bed, right? So, like, I'm being facetious about that. But, like, where are you guys now? What does everything look like? What do sales look like? How much are people resonating with the product? And what is the future, the evolution of this company?
Yeah, man. So right now, still have our standard queen size pillow. We're bringing the king size to market. So we'll have both versions, for people who have king size beds and who prefer those. We're in our second generation of product development. We've made humongous strides from Gen 1 to Gen 2. Like, it's really exciting to see. The two key metrics are like, customer returning rate, meaning the percentage of customers that come back and buy more pillows. And we've 2.5x that number from our Gen 1. So, we've listened to the market, heard their feedback, iterated, made a better product. And then we're sampling our sheet set now. So we'll be coming out with our sheet set. We might start with just the pillowcase and kind of get the market's feedback there first before we go into an entire sheet set. And then the long-term vision is loungewear and PJs and stuff like that. So that's kind of our little roadmap right now.
I love it. What is it like? When you say the Nike of betting, right? Nike immediately goes to sports for me. Obviously, that's just kind of something like. Is this when you say the Nike of betting? Are you is that sports demographic, is that where you guys are trying to focus, or is it really just kind of the idea behind being the best in this particular area?
Yeah, good question. Good question. I would say both. But definitely being a sports-oriented, brand. But to your point, right, there's an athlete in all of us, man. Just because we're not playing sports right now doesn't mean we're not a competitor, we're not fierce. We don't take that same level of intensity to our jobs or to our passions, right? Your podcast thing, man, like, for example, you're crushing it. Like, you're taking intensity, diligence, discipline to that. It's the same mentality that sports instill in us. And, whether you're a graphic designer or you like to do pottery or you snowboard or rock climb, whatever you like to do, bringing that same level of discipline and intensity. And in order to do that, and in order to be successful in those things, it's getting good sleep. It's practicing proper sleep hygiene. So I guess to answer your question, it's aligning ourselves with different athletes to tell that story and being educational to our audience, to again, tell that story that, your dreams, your goals, your ambitions, right? Sleep ambitiously is our slogan. And, at the end of the day, in order to achieve your full potential, you have to be sleeping well. You have to be hydrating. You have to be, doing some form of exercise, fitness, workout, whatever. You have to be eating well. And sleep, again, is the fundamental building block of greatness. So, sorry, I'm getting all excited over here, but
I love it, man. No, the reason why I do this show is because I love talking to people and asking them questions, and specifically I like talking to people who are passionate about something. I don't care what they're passionate about, but when you talk to someone who's passionate about something, I couldn't care less about the topic. I just want to enjoy listening to them talk because, yeah, you say it with a smile. You say it with intensity. You say it because you mean it, because you love it, because you like it. And that brings a smile to my face. So I really do appreciate you coming on here. And the last thing I do want to talk about, you said you want to align yourself with some athletes. I have Brandy Chastain, Ronnie Lott, Bobby Okereke. He's going to be a new Giants linebacker, so I'm going to need to learn how to say his name, so I'll let you do it. But
I think you got it right.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Because we used to say Okereke, which it sounds way more fun. But Okereke, okay, that's his last name. I'll give it to him. What does it mean for you guys to align with these athletes, to have them say, "Hey, I want to be a part of this company. I want to invest, whether that's time, effort, energy, money, into what you're doing because I believe in it." Right? You had these incredible executives from amazing companies like Anheuser-Busch and Shopify, right? And now you're actually getting that athlete side of the business too. How much more authority, how much more, what was the word you used before? I apologize, it's escaping me right now, but how much more oomph does that give you guys knowing? Validation, thank you. Knowing that you have actual, not just actual athletes, some of like Ronnie Lott, like one of the most well-known football players, right, ever live. Brandy Chastain, one of the most amazing women's soccer players to ever live. No offense to Bobby, he's incredible at what he does. Sorry, he's not quite on their level, but like he's still an amazing athlete, right? What does it mean for you guys to have them behind you in your corner, helping you try and sell product, sell this brand, and create this community around what you guys are building?
Exactly, yeah. I mean, from like a consumer level, right? Like, seeing these types of testimonials and these athletes' involvements it builds trust with consumers, with customers, people, who are joining the Mummy community. But on a whole nother level, and much more importantly, it's tapping into their networks. It's getting their support. It's, getting the visibility, aligning ourselves, attaching Mummy's name to these, great people, right? Like, Brandy and Ronnie, for example, like some of the most legendary athletes in the NFL and in, women's soccer. And for them to care, for them to invest their money and also their time, right? They also do advisory and help us out with networking and stuff. So to invest their time and money, I think is huge. It grabs people's attentions, right? It's like, one of the greatest football players to ever walk the planet is spending his time, money, and energy with this company. Like, maybe there's something to this. Like, what does this company do? What's their mission? So honestly, it's like, to your point earlier, it's like standing on the shoulders of giants, right? Like, leveraging these people's networks to help tell the story, to help change people's lives. I think it's maybe it sounds corny to the listeners or to you, but like there's real solid data that shows the importance of sleep, right? And so if we can inspire people to get that extra half an hour, to turn off their phone, to stop watching Netflix, an hour earlier, to practice a little bit proper, a bit better sleep hygiene, and also provide a product that helps them to stop tossing and turning and fluffing their pillow back up and flipping it back over and folding it in half and doing all that so they sleep more soundly. Like if Mummy can help you get just 30 more minutes of sleep a night, that's going to change your life and pretty significantly. And so ultimately, I'm really excited about our mission, and I think having their involvement is paramount to all of our progress so far, and continues to be moving forward as we're looking to build a roster of athlete investors, bringing more people on across different leagues, right? Again, setting this example. People look up to these people, right? Like setting this example that sleep is important. So again, to answer your question very long-windedly, it's, without them, I couldn't do it, man. People along the way, they extend out a helping hand, whether it's an investment or a connection or what have you. And, I wouldn't be where I am today, and Mummy wouldn't be what it is today without all of our investors, including, the athletes you mentioned.
I love it, man. I think it's awesome, the opportunity that you guys have to help people, right? Like you said, it might sound a little corny. An extra 30 minutes of sleep will change your life. I'm sure people rolled their eyes and said, oh, okay, well, if you just do a simple bit of math, that's an extra 3.5 hours of sleep a week, which is an entire half a night's sleep. Like that's a lot when you kind of think about it in those terms, right? It's for every week, I'm giving you an extra half a night's sleep. Yeah, it's spread out, but that's very important when you're trying to hit the 7 hours. If you're only getting 6 hours, your statistic from before, right? If you're getting 7 hours, now you're getting 7.5. You don't think that's going to be a little bit nicer? Like when we break it down in percentages, 30 minutes doesn't sound like that much, but in reality, it's a huge chunk if you can add that every single night to what you're doing, or even more sound sleep, right? I look at my Fitbit all the time. It says I sleep like crap. I don't know if I 100% believe it, but like it's always something that I'm paying attention to. How much deep sleep, how much REM am I getting, or is it me just kind of tossing and turning? That's never good. Like you could tell, like Whoop. I'm sure a lot of people that wear Whoop bands are very familiar with recovery and their sleep score and all that stuff. So no, man, I love sleeping. I don't understand why more people don't take it seriously. So appreciate what you're doing, man. Helping the world. Thank you.
Yeah, man. No, and I love that. Thank you for having me on, dude. And I love that way of looking at it is an extra, if you call it an extra hour of sleep a week, an extra hour of sleep each night gives you an entire night of sleep at the end of the week, which is pretty wild to think about. I've never actually thought about it that way. So that's a really
use that
cool
in marketing.
perspective.
And now you do that in marketing, but then I have an ask where you're going to have all these athletes that are going to say, like, I endorse this product, I endorse this product. Then you can have me in the same ad being like, I'm just a normal dude, but I also endorse this product because normal people, quote unquote normal people, should be using this too because sleep's very important. I don't care what you do in the rest of your life, right? Give them a little of that juxtaposition. But we'll talk contracts and stuff later. That's not a problem. Joe, I sincerely appreciate you coming on. We went a little long here, so I hope you're not trying to run out of here right now. But really, this was awesome. It was great to understand what you did, how you did it, how you got here. I always love these types of stories. I love your passion about what you do and why you do it. Where can we go buy some pillows, man? Tell me.
Yeah, man. MVMIsleep.com. So that's mummysleep.com. And I realize it looks like MVMI.
Yeah, it does. It does. But hey, it's cool. It's fun. It's hip. Maybe that's a part of it. But no, man, I think it's awesome. We're socials. Where can we talk to you if we have any questions for you specifically or the team? Give me a little bit more. Come on. I want some more links.
Absolutely.
Send me some more links.
Absolutely. So at MVMIsleep.com, at MVMIsleep, you'll find our Instagram and Twitter and all that good stuff. Check us out on YouTube for the Dave Portnoy thing. We have a little endorsement commercial with Brandy Chastain. Feel free to reach out to service at MVMIsleep.com. I'm running customer service right now, so if you email that email, you're going to be talking to me. So if you have any questions, service at MVMIsleep.com. And again, check out our website. you can learn more about my story, and some of the investors have testimonials on there. And yeah, man, we're excited. We're excited to build a community. So
I love it, man. Well, this has been incredible, Joe. Sincerely appreciate it. Let's see. It's been an hour, so let's see if I can get your last name. Joe Castignani. He's the founder of Mummy, MVMI Sleep. Make sure to go check him out. I'll put all the links down there. You also sent me the emergency press conference and the preceding video from Dave Portnoy, so I'll also put those in the description if anyone wants to check those out. But no, man, this has been awesome. Appreciate your time today.
Yeah, bro, Michael, I really appreciate it. Thanks for having me on. This has been
Pleasure's all mine. Time's the only thing we don't get more of, so thank you for giving me some of yours. I appreciate the audience for giving us some of theirs, but other than that, hope everyone has a great rest of your day. Appreciate it.
Peace.
Bye, everybody.